So, not too long ago, me and my friends discovered, being 16 to 19, an abandoned building extremely close to our local high school. It's only separated by a highly trafficked nature centre, with trails from the high school end of it to the abandoned facility. So, being in a science class years prior where we navigated these trails every day, I was surprised to have never found it. After telling me about it at lunch, me and about three friends decided to go after school to the building, and I was surprised that it was a huge property that held about 8 football fields worth of random church type buildings that were separated by about 50 yards each, and were pretty massive individually. The first one we navigated was in the way back, and was the most run down, and one of the largest. A back door was simply propped open with a brick, and once you entered, you were exposed to a very long, narrow, dark hallway, with many doors opening up to it, and the smell of mouldy drywall and dust. The wallpaper was creepily peeling off just about everywhere, and walking down the hallway, we noticed that some rooms were in a relatively 9 out of 10 condition, while others, the drywall between them have completely rotted out away to leave a pile on the floor of disgusting brown and green rotting material, with the ceiling caving in. After we explored the entire building, we realised that it was completely symmetrical in some sense, and eerily each room was labelled things like bedroom, dining hall, etc. And we found rooms that seemed to have been used for padding, and heavy doors that were recognised to be little cell type rooms for angry mental people, like calm down rooms. After realising this, and reading an old broiler note we found in the boiler room, which had stairs leading down to a completely flooded basement which was very creepy looking, it read that this was an old mental facility. We found a room that my friends had set up previously with about 8 chairs set up in a circle to smoke weed. And we came back a few days later with literally 8 people, and it was pretty lit, being midday and safe feeling, until one of us had the idea to start scaring each other and separating from the group. Everyone kept doing this for about 20 minutes, sneaking away with a buddy or two to slam doors and jump scare the rest of us lot. However, we started to notice that we weren't alone. There was someone or something else in the building with us. Me and my friend Twig, his nickname, were off to sneak from the rest and scare them as usual, when we noticed feet from the other side of the door, saw the door rattle like it had been kicked or punched, and saw the footsteps walk away from under it. Scared shitless, we ran back to the rest of the group, still in the chair room, and told them, but they didn't believe us, as everyone kept saying they saw something and we assumed it was bullshit, and everyone was trying to scare each other. Eventually, someone had a grand old idea for us to all congregate in this chair room and be completely silent and listen for noises. And to our surprise, we all heard sounds from the other side of the building echoing towards us. Furthermore, me and a friend about 10 minutes prior, due to the pure boredom, both threw chairs down the hall to make a noise to scare everyone. And we looked back down the hall seconds later to notice that both of the chairs went very far down the hall, about 30 feet. With all of this, we all dipped very quickly in our cars, left, and never came back until about a week later, when we found all of the windows had been smashed, not by us, but were there before, and the doors that were open were all boarded up and locked up. We think that the city is keeping these buildings locked up for a reason. Or if they don't know something is lurking in the mouldy, despairing darkness, good thing they did. I started hanging out with a friend of a friend, who called himself, and others called him, Hellboy, like the superhero. Very cool person. I'm from the Metro Detroit area, and he is not emo, if you were to call it that, but the type of person who dresses with spike bracelets, custom painted leather jacket, combat boots, etc. This, in my local area, makes him stand out a lot. Very unique dude. My first time hanging out with him, I noticed right off the bat that he had a black 1984 hearse parked up in his driveway, in front of a detached garage in his backyard. With a few buddies, we'd sit inside, smoke, and chill about twice a week. Upon asking him, he claimed, from the account of the previous owner, that it hauled bodies all through the 80s and 90s, yet the inside of the car surprisingly didn't smell like death, or feel super eerie. Just weird that we were sitting on the marble foundation in the back, where old grandmas and grandpas, and anybody for that matter, were driven to their grave plots for decades. He claimed when he drove it hours from its previous owner to where it sits, not running now, that it was stuck on a static radio station, which was 66.6. Not sure if this was a real radio station or some kind of laugh-giggle type thing set up by the previous owner, but pretty creepy, I guess, nonetheless. Anyway, one time we were working on it deep into the night, reasonably high, but not to the point where we blowed in a delusional manner. I hooked up a portable power station to the battery terminals to try and start it. For non-car people, it was a battery-type box that you charge that can jump a car on its own after plugging it into a wall for hours. It would turn over for about 1 second, then stop, and we had no parts, so we unplugged everything after a few minutes of troubleshooting and began to pack it up. Suddenly, the power station started to hum very loudly, and we discovered that it had an air compressor feature that turned on by itself and wouldn't shut off. It kept going for hours. After we button jammed the hell out of it, gave up and went inside, it eventually pretty much exploded. Not fiery, but in an electrical manner. Confused and scared shitless, we went back inside of the house to discover that the cross rosary hung on the rear view mirror was on the ground. Not upside down, but on the ground. And the sage bundle sitting on the dashboard was smouldering on the seat. We didn't sit in the front, and we lived in a safer suburb, so it's highly unlikely someone was fucking with us. We left. Late night, we came back to hang a few days later to discover Hellboy, a not very mechanically inclined person, leaning into the engine bay, looking around confused. We knew he didn't know what he was doing, but suspected something must have happened. He said, the other night, that the hearse had moved about 4 feet forward over the night, and this was evident by the patch of old leaked fluid and debris where it used to sit behind it now. We started to joke about its curse, and after then it started to get a little weirder. The car, off a dead battery while we were hotboxing it, suddenly flashed all the dim yellow lights 3 quick times that we used to presumably illuminate caskets and help pallbearers see at night, like the interior ceiling lights once have. We tried to all scurry out, having my skinny ass crawl through the front to get out and let the rest of the group out. There's no door handles inside of the back part, and you could simply climb over the seats. It's separated by a very tight fit opening that was a glass sliding taxi cop type thing. Door handles weren't working. I couldn't let them out. Then, the trunk popped open, or the back door rather, which doesn't even have that feature like a modern car does, and they promptly scurried out. I grew up in a small town. My house was one of the oldest ones in the town. We lived right beside 3 sets of train tracks. Growing up, I always heard voices. My friend heard them too in my house. They weren't regular voices, it's hard to explain. But if she didn't hear them with me, I would have passed it off as my imagination. It was only words here and there, but they came across like a dream. We heard them, but we knew they weren't there, like a fast car zooming by. It was always a man, and we never knew what exactly he was saying. It was a regular occurrence when I was growing up that stuff would fly off the back of the toilet and hit the opposite wall in our bathroom. My mum finally told them to shut up, and it stopped. When I was about 12, my parents and my brother went to my brother's hockey game at the local arena. I stayed at home and had a bath. Our bathroom was on the left of a hallway, with the washer and dryer on the right, and a door leading to an old office room that had stairs going to the basement. As I was having my bath, I heard heavy boot steps come up the stairs towards the back door. All of a sudden they stopped. And then they were outside of the bathroom door, and it sounded like something either kicked or punched the washing machine. It was loud. I was so scared I got dressed and ran away to a friend's house without leaving a note. I got used to the big guy and found out through his silhouette there was a woman in the house as well. She's not nice and hangs around the stairs. Even now, at 31 years of age, if I go up the stairs at my parents' house, I always have this horrible feeling that someone is behind me and wants to pull me down. I've never had that feeling anywhere else. My nephew is autistic and would talk to the ghosts. When my nephew was 4, he told my mom that the man's name is Sonny and that Sonny watches us. He told her that if we wanted to see Sonny, we would have to go down to the basement and dig. Sonny died falling on the train tracks. He doesn't like the woman and won't go up the stairs alone, so I don't know much about her, other than she is not nice. So this one isn't actually a story of one of my ghosts, but another one in another house. One of my oldest friends grew up in a house that apparently used to be a funeral home. She lived just a few houses down from mine, and it was very haunted. There was even a brick on the house that said, "Dead House." It was there for as long as we can remember, so we don't know when it was written or who wrote it. Anywho, I spent the night one night. We were maybe 13 or 14 years old. She had 2 younger brothers, one was maybe 4 or 5 at the time, and the other was 2. We'd just woken up and we were just laying in bed, kind of talking, being lazy. We could hear her 2 younger brothers downstairs, being typical noisy kids. We heard a female voice say, "Shh, you need to be quiet," and the boys went quiet. We figured her mom was downstairs with them, so we didn't think anything of it. A few minutes later, her mom walks in and asks us if we told the boys to be quiet. We told her no. We thought it was her. It wasn't her. We all just kind of went quiet, and her mom left the room and went downstairs. While this story is short and there isn't much to it, when we all realised that there was a woman downstairs talking to the boys, that everyone in the house heard speak and actually made the boys quiet down, it's always stuck with me. Like I said in my last post, we heard voices in my house, but they were always very quick and we could never understand exactly what was said. This voice was clear as day and loud enough to be heard in 2 rooms on another floor, like there was a living person there with them. In the end, it was nothing more than chilling. Today, I'm going to talk about my nephew. He's 12 now, so he's not as open anymore. He still remembers some of it and feels and fears it, but you can't see or talk to them anymore. It all actually started when his mother was pregnant with him. Her and my brother were living in an old farmhouse out in the country. I don't recall how far along she was, but let's say 5 or 6 months. They were living with my parents when he was born. It was the middle of the night and she woke up to this bright light. She said it was like a car had pulled up to their bedroom window with its high beams on. She was startled and frightened, and then she heard a voice say, "Don't worry, it's just me, Granny." She instantly felt calm and went back to sleep. My grandmother on my dad's side was Granny. She didn't know that when she told us. I mentioned in my original story of him telling my mom about Sonny going upstairs and watching us when he was 3 years old. What I didn't add in is that he pointed to stairs that had been cut off and made into a closet. He'd never been in that closet at that point in his life. He didn't know those stairs existed. But he told her that Sonny goes up those stairs and watches us. When he was around the same age, my parents took them to our little family cottage in Tobermory, Ontario. He was playing outside on the deck and just randomly stopped, looked to the roof and said, "What happened to the wood stove?" and then continued playing. The wood stove he spoke of had been out of the cottage since before I was born, and it was never mentioned around him. I'm not sure if any of you on here are aware, but out on Georgian Bay by Tobermory, It was a place called Flower Pot Island. It's a big tourist attraction, part of the Fathom 5 National Park. On the island is the lightkeeper's house, which is now a museum. My great-grandfather was the lighthouse keeper there for 25 years. My granny grew up in that house. We volunteered working the island for several years, and my nephew refused to stay in that house. There were too many people at night. He wasn't threatened by the presences, but he wasn't comfortable. There's a volunteer house there where the volunteer caretakers sleep. But if there is too many people, they stay in the museum. My adult cousins end up staying in the museum house 1 year and didn't get any sleep. They never came back to stay overnight again. Late last night, around 11 p.m, my family and I returned home from the Lake District. We live on the southern coast of England. We had a pet sitter tend to our pets while we were gone, including my black cat. When we got home, he greeted me with cuddles and purring, but desperately wanted outside. We don't have a cat flat. There are a lot of foxes around us, and we have house rabbits too, so we don't risk it. Anyway, I hardly ever let him out at night, but I figured I'd sleep for an hour or two, and then let him back in. But my husband was staying up a bit later, so I said to check their back door before coming to bed. I fell asleep and slept between an hour or two and got up. Everyone in the house was asleep, and I made my way down the upstairs landing. We have no natural light in the upstairs hall landing, as it's an old Victorian terraced house. It was very dark, so I left our bedroom door open to see a little. That's when I saw my cat. As I walked towards him, he turned and walked away from me. I thought he wanted food and my husband had let him back in. So, I followed him and continued to try and pick him up. I couldn't catch him. For some reason, I all of a sudden had an eerie chill, so I reached for the lights. Nothing. No cat. I went downstairs into the back door and opened it, and my cat ran in. So, what was I following upstairs? I will say, I don't really creep out over ghosts, etc., as it's not a new thing for me, but it is for this house. We've lived here for 2 years and I haven't seen anything. The house is 120 years old though, so who knows what it was, and why it wanted to follow me. So, a little backstory. In our house, my room has always been a hotspot for weird things. Unexplained things that have always happened in my room, but they were always subtle, and they always happened when I was in my room alone or with my friend, but never when my parents were around. My parents never believed me, always dismissing it, saying that it was just in my mind, and sometimes even doubt myself. So things were a bit quiet for a while, but this happened 2 days ago. It was around 10:45 at night. I'm in my room, it's dark with only a nightlight on. I'm laying on my side using my phone and I'm facing the door. The door is closed, so I know that no one else was in my room. So like I said, I'm on my phone, and suddenly I feel someone or something pull at my top. Like really pull at it from behind, with so much force, I actually moved back an inch. I sat up and looked around in my room, and no one was there. But I see the shadow thingy near my door, and it's gone then. This might sound weird, but previously when I would feel a presence in my room, I would never get scared. I didn't get scared before because I was kind of used to things happening. And also, whatever is in my room never tried to establish contact like this. I don't know if it was just trying to get my attention or scare me. I didn't sleep at all the whole night. I'm really scared it'll happen again. I don't know. Hey, back again. Haunted Chipotle manager. Been only a month since the last experience, but here we are again. Once again, a late night, disses out the wazoo. Didn't finish till about 12:30. The last employee clocks out and leaves. Immediately, things feel off. The air in the restaurant feels unsettlingly active. I brush it off because I was dancing to Muse as I head down and turn off the lights. But as I turn off my music and get ready to get changed, the uneasiness sets in. Remember the box with the eye from my first post? Well, I sure did in that moment. That box disappeared a few months back, and I totally forgot about it. But I don't think the store did. Right where the box was, I saw a crack on the wall. I don't remember that crack being there, but to be fair, there used to be a box in front of it. Right before I really look at the crack, the phone rings. Who the fuck calls Chipotle at 12:40? Scared the shit out of me. It's the guy who just left. He forgot his charger. I told him he's an idiot and to tell me where it is and meet me at the back door. I ain't unlocking the front. So as I hand him the charger, I can't help but look up right at the moon. First time seeing it tonight and it's full. As I walk back down the stairs to the storage room, it sets in. It's a full moon. I started getting changed and my brain is drawn to the crack again. I didn't see an eye coming out of the wall, but I swear to God, I felt something watching me and coming out of that crack. I immediately grabbed my bike and slammed the door without looking back and tried to set the alarm, which wasn't fucking working. The alarm always works unless the door is open or something is setting off a motion sensor in the restaurant. So I said fucking and bolted out the back door with my bike. I headed down to the corner and down the street, instead of cutting through the parking lot as usual. I couldn't stop looking at the restaurant, dark and quiet but full of malice and reaching out towards me. I went down to the corner and kept going until I cleared the shopping centre and got down to the next block before I felt safe. I just got home and needed to talk about this because holy shit, I hate this place. I work as a service manager at a Chipotle that is rather understaffed. As the manager, I'm the last one out, and due to staffing, it's usually pretty late. To make matters worse, I commute by bike, so I like to get changed when I finish all my work. This means I'm usually alone for 15 or more minutes in the basement of a strip mall, well after everyone else has gone, from the entire area. Because of this, I've heard strange noises and felt presences behind me. And others have even mentioned being pushed down the stairs or reporting things being thrown down. We have cameras that look down the staircase, and trust me, it's pretty weird to watch happen. But the worst was that one night I was here alone until 2 AM doing a full inventory. The last employee left at 12:45. The building was locked down and there was not another single person in the entire strip. But by 1:15 I heard a man and a woman arguing. The sounds were coming from the solid concrete walls. Around 1:30, I heard breathing coming towards me, so I slammed the office door shut. That didn't stop the breath from coming up to my neck. I could feel pressure on my shoulders. That subsided by 1:50. At 2:10, I was getting changed in the storage room and took my bike out to set the alarm. The second I set the alarm, I hear the sounds of stomping boots running through the kitchen towards the back door, where I was currently in the process of getting the fuck out. I never left the building so fast. So I've talked before about how my job is haunted, and I've had another experience tonight, but it actually reminded me of something I want to talk about more. See, tonight my employees all had to leave by 10:30, and we were short-staffed, so I had to finish the cleaning and paperwork. I was finishing up as midnight rolled around, and exactly as the clock hit 12, it seemed as if whatever is there in the store decided, get out or I'll kill you. Because suddenly I just felt an overwhelming sense of danger and rushed out of the restaurant. This isn't a feeling I've gotten more than once before, and never from anything I can actually observe. The other experience happening on Thanksgiving 2019. Me and my fiance had moved into our apartment that summer, and we were now living in a different town. So when we left to go to her uncle's house, we ended up going through some places we've never been. Their house was a fair bit away, and my fiance didn't feel comfortable driving on highways, so we were taking residential routes. I'll never forget, it was between 4 and 5 PM as we entered this neighbourhood. The The second we crossed the threshold, my eyes started to tear up and I sank into my seat on instinct. I said, without even processing it, "Something is wrong. Something is watching us." My fiancée was concerned, but she focused on her driving and we just kept going. We were in that neighborhood for about 7 minutes, and the whole time, that feeling remained. I have no idea what it was that was hunting us. I kept scanning rooftops, looking behind us, scanning everywhere around, and I saw nothing. Every car was parked. Not a single living thing was around, not a bird, squirrel, or person. It was so dead, and that sense of being hunted remained. Finally, we reached the other side, and the second we left, it felt like a weight off my chest. To this day, I still have no idea what made me feel that way, and I honestly try to forget it because it was so horrifying. But tonight I felt it again, and I bolted like a bat out of hell. I was at my in-laws' house, alone, for a few hours doing laundry. Beautiful, clear day outside. All of a sudden, I heard an adult male voice exclaim, "Oh shit!" in an angry tone, almost like someone had stubbed their toe. The thing is, there was no substance to the voice. Like if somebody were to call out that loudly, you could sort of feel or tell where it's coming from, or there would be an echo. I couldn't tell where exactly the sound was coming from, but it sounded like it was off in the distance or downstairs. No echo. It was just very flat and strange. I had been very obviously there for at least 2 hours at that point, and wearing combat boots, so if someone had been downstairs, they would have easily heard me clomping around long before then. That was not my first weird encounter at this house. Previously, I had a closet door slam on my back a different time I was there alone a few months ago. This time, I thought I was hearing things, except I heard it clear as day and it was pretty loud. I sternly replied, "Get the fuck out and don't fucking swear in my house," and opened the front door hoping it would leave. I sat outside on the steps for a moment and waited, called my boyfriend in a panic, and decided I was going to stop with the laundry and just grab my things and leave. Just in case someone had broken into the house and was in the basement where the voice may have come from. I closed the door, took a few steps over to my bag, and as soon as I had my hand on my purse, there was a loud crash from directly beneath me in the basement. It shook the floor, and the whole house, like a large piece of furniture, had tipped over. I ran out of the house and took off in my car, leaving the laundry. My boyfriend has had strange experiences over the years in that house, the house that he grew up in, but he's numb to it, so I don't think whatever it is targets him anymore, because he can ignore it. I don't have a ton of experience with paranormal, although I do believe there was a ghost in a condo we used to live in. Things would be moved around, and my hair would get pulled on several occasions. I think whatever that spirit was, it was just trying to get a rise out of me. That was years ago, and I haven't had any weird experiences after leaving that apartment. This time felt different. I felt vulnerable, like I was in danger if I stayed. In June of 2019, me and a friend had decided with our girlfriends that we were going to go camping. It's the day of, and we're packing our shit in the car. We finally get all our stuff loaded and get in the car and put the address in the GPS. We set off on the trip, and after 3 hours of driving and 45 minutes of hearing my friend and his girl argue, we finally arrive. We get out of the car, and me and my friend begin unloading. After getting my stuff, I began getting my girlfriend's stuff. As I was, my friend was asking his girlfriend why she needed 3 bags for a one-night camping trip. She smiled and opened one of them, and it had an ounce of weed, pre-rolls, and other goodies. The 2 other bags had her favourite snacks and clothes. Now knowing we had weed, we had to find a place to camp that wasn't near other people. It took until sundown, but we found a perfect spot. We decided that after we got everything taken care of, we should eat hot dogs and smoke a blunt. We started to build a campfire to light the area so we could set up our tents, but we ran out of wood in the immediate area. I said I'd go get some, while my friends stayed with the girls. I set off on my journey, and after about 2 minutes, I find some sticks to use. I start picking up sticks, and all of a sudden, I felt someone grab my wrist. I looked up to see a man with a blank expression. For a man, he had surprisingly long fingernails. He was digging them into my wrist while trying to grab my other wrist. I turned my head to not see his face and screamed for help, and my friends shouted a response, saying they were coming. After they shouted, I immediately felt relief in my wrist. I wasn't struggling to keep my arms down, so I turned, and the man wasn't there anymore. I turned and ran as fast as I could, terrified. I met my friends and said we had to leave immediately. I didn't even explain myself, I just wanted gone. We loaded our stuff up and took the long walk back. We get to the car and load our bags into it. I explained what happened as we were walking back, and it scared them enough to make them want to hustle. I had a picture of my wrist immediately after, but my iPhone broke, and my iCloud wasn't backed up, so I lost the picture. I do have a picture of it now though. It has since then become a scar, which shows just how much force he put into it. It was Thanksgiving 2019. My family was holding Thanksgiving dinner at my grandma's sister's house. She just moved to Oklahoma, so my grandma wanted us to spend Thanksgiving with her. When we got there were a few others, but we still had to wait for the rest to show up. So in the meantime, we just did whatever. My grandma's sister breeds Pomeranians for a living, so her house is basically a Pomeranian farm. Me and my brother wanted to check the puppies out, and we needed to pass the time, so that's what we did. She had 2 large pens outside and a pen in her garage to keep the newborn puppies and their mothers in until they were ready to be sent outside. It was pretty wet outside, so I opted out of going outside in the mud while wearing white shoes. We made our way to the garage, and when we came in, there was an older man sitting in a recliner watching the puppies. I know it's bizarre to just have a recliner sitting around in your garage, but it's what she sits in while she worms puppies. There's always a lot of them, so she likes to be comfortable while doing it. We told him hi and introduced ourselves. He introduced himself as Dean, and he said he was my grandma's sister's husband. We kept chatting for about 30 minutes, then left. When we went back into the kitchen to see their progress, they were setting the table. They called for everyone to come to the table. I went back to the garage to get Dean, but he wasn't there. I went back to the kitchen and told my grandma that I went to get Dean, but he wasn't in the garage like I last saw him. She responded with, "Huh?" I repeated myself, and she said that Thanksgiving isn't the day to make those kind of jokes. I was confused and told her that I wasn't making any jokes, and she said he was in there earlier. She looked at me in the eyes and said, "Dean has been dead for 5 months." It wasn't brought up at dinner for obvious reasons, but I told my brother later that night when we got home about what Grandma said. I've been back to her house numerous times since then, and every time I go into that garage, all I can think of is that 30-minute conversation. My brother refuses to go back into that garage.